Hey guys, it is so good to see all of you. I hope it's been a great day so far as well. My name is Adam. I'm one of the pastors here, and we're excited. We're excited about today. We're excited about what God has in store for us. We are excited that you are here, whether you're joining us in person, online, at a campus, at a network church, on iTunes, YouTube, however you are hearing my voice, we are excited that you've decided to come and worship with us here today. I want to give a special shout out to a brand new network church. They've actually been with us for some time. They're a fairly recent new church start, but have just recently decided to become a part of the network. I'm talking about St. Michael Church in the Twin City in the Maple Grove area. We are excited and honored to be a part of what God is doing in and through you. But at all campuses and network churches, can we put it up and welcome St. Michael? Can we put it up for them and just thank them that they are here? Well, since I last spoke just 2 weeks ago, 2020 continues to be 2020. Like, did anyone see the election or the debate, the presidential debate on Tuesday night? Enough said. Like, the whole time I'm watching, it's like, what in the world is taking place here? God help us all. On top of that, we now have a Supreme Court justice opening. Because why not, right? There are more fires taking over the western side of our country. COVID was airborne, and now I guess it's not. And then lastly, the Minnesota Vikings are 0-3. And actually, that's not too surprising that the Minnesota Vikings are 0-3. I love you, CJ. But truly, this year in our world as a whole continues to go crazy. And it just makes you want to say, what in the world? Like, what in the world is happening? What in the world is going on? And this is the name of our series that we're in, simply called What in the World. And so far, we've talked about things like cancel culture. Week 2, we talked about mob mentality. Last week, Holly did an amazing job talking about uncertain times. If you missed that message, go and check it out. But coming into this series, I have to be honest, I kind of stepped into it with a little bit of fear and trembling. And I just kind of anticipated each week everybody leaving angry, like everyone just being ticked off as they were leaving. It's like, we're never coming back. But the response has been amazing. The response has been overwhelming in the best way possible. And it just feels like this is a series where we're talking about topics that so many of us are wrestling with in our everyday lives. And I love this. I love this. Why? Because Jesus doesn't want to be a separate part of our life. He doesn't want just an hour on Sundays when we talk about holy God things, and then the rest of our life is just something completely different. Instead, he wants to be a part of every part of our lives, including right now, today, this week, this year. He wants to be a part of the things we're wrestling with in 2020. And so today, this week, we're going to continue on, and we're going to talk about something that is not touchy at all, okay? Today, we're going to talk about political correctness, which actually might be the touchiest topic that we talked about so far. But just to start with a definition, I think it's always helpful to start with a definition. So many of us define political correctness a whole bunch of different ways. And so I want to make sure we're talking about the same thing. Political correctness, what is it? Political correctness is the avoidance of expressions or actions that are perceived to exclude or insult members of particular groups in society. And so that's the definition. And this term, it came about right around in 1964 when LBJ was president. And LBJ said, when making decisions, we want to make sure that decisions are not made simply because they're politically correct, but instead we want to make decisions because they're the right and good thing to do. And so since that time, 1964, this term has grown and it's been used by a bunch of different people in a bunch of different ways. Anybody remember Bill Maher? He had a show that was called Politically Incorrect. And so it's been used in so many different ways, but in the last 10 or 15 years, political correctness has exploded. This term has exploded. And what have we done? We've ran in two completely different directions, and we've ended up with two very different extremes. When it comes to political correctness, some of us are extremely for it, and others of us are extremely against it. Again, we found ourselves with two very different extremes. And just to help us understand what these extremes look like, the first extreme is who? The first extreme is the person who's offended by everything. Again, there's two extremes of political correctness. The person who's extremely for it, they're offended by everything. Like, what did you say? I'm offended. What was that? Offended. What did you think over there? I'm offended. I'm offended by everything, and I'm convinced that it's my job to point out the imperfections in everybody else's words. Like, excuse me, sir. Obviously, you are not as enlightened and educated. Have you seen my diplomas over here? You are obviously not as educated and enlightened, as wise as I am, and you accidentally said something politically incorrect, and now it's my job. Yours was accidental. Now it's my job to intentionally make you feel like an idiot. Okay, it's my job, and it's okay that I make you feel like an idiot. It's okay that I offend you because you first said something politically incorrect. Again, the first extreme is the person who's offended by everything. The second extreme, the person who's extremely against it. Who's that person? That's the person who wants to say what? Whatever the H they want. That's the person who wants to say whatever they want. Like, I can say anything I want to. I don't care if you have feelings. I don't care if you're a person. I don't care if you even have a soul. I can say anything I want. I'm actually proud that I say crazy things. I'm actually proud that I'm your crazy Facebook friend who posts crazy Facebook crap all over the place. This is a free country. It's my right. I can say whatever I want, and you cannot take my guns away from me. Okay? Again, I can say whatever I want. This is a free country, freedom of speech. I can do as I please. And so these are the two extremes. And I'm just guessing we can all picture people who fit very, very nicely into these two categories, right? Maybe it's a sibling of yours. Maybe it's your mother-in-law that you pray would go be with Jesus. Not meet Jesus, but go be with Jesus. Just kind of nicely that she just go, Maybe it's a coworker. It's your cousin. It's a crazy uncle, just to get personal. It's maybe you. You're maybe the extreme crazy person. And just to say it, all of us tend to lean one of the two directions. We all kind of have a leaning towards us, and none of us ever wants to think that we are the extreme person. But today, I just want to ask, what does God have to say? Like, when it comes to political correctness, what does God think? And it just feels like we need to wrestle with this now more than ever, don't we? More than ever. But what does God have to say? Like we know the extremes, and we know where we should fall if we're a part of a certain political party, and we know where we should fall if we're a part of a certain family, and our mom is so-and-so, and our dad's such and such. We know where we should fall with political correctness if we're a part of a certain career or job, but setting all of that aside, because all of that is secondary, what does God have to say? Looking at these two extremes, what does God think? I'm glad you asked, because that's where we're going. I mean, just looking at the first extreme of political correctness, the person who's offended by everything, what does God have to say? First off, he says this: stop being so easily offended. Again, to this first extreme, the person who's offended by everything, what does God say? Stop being so easily offended. I'm talking to you. Stop it. Stop it. Yep, you stop being so easily offended. In one of the most well-known chapters in the entire Bible, a guy named Paul is talking about love and the love that we should have and what our love should look like as followers of Jesus. And Paul says that love is patient, love is kind, love does not envy. And then a few words later, what does he say? He says, love is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrong. This word anger can also translate to irritated. It can also translate to the word provoked. Love is not easily angered. Stop being so easily offended. Stop it. That's not love. It's not, it doesn't look at the love that we should have as followers of Jesus. Now it's easy to think, well, Adam, I hate to inform you, you're a straight white guy. Like you're as straight and as white as they come. Like, what do you know about being offended? And right now I'm actually trying to decide if I'm offended that you're the one saying to stop being so easily offended. I'm trying to figure that out right now. And that's true. I am a straight white guy. But I also do have an adopted African son named Wilson who looks nothing like me. And just to say it with my son as his father, there's been a few times, or more accurate, a few hundred times, where I could have been so easily offended. Like when people ask me about my real kids, like your real kids. I know Wilson, he's so nice, but like I'm talking about your real kids, like your biological kids, like your real ones. And when people ask, is this your son? Yeah, he is? Really? He's your son. He's really your son. Can I ask you, like, where did you get him from? And can I ask how much he cost? I always kind of want to snarkily say back, I don't know, he was on sale at Walmart, you know? And it's actually, in the moment, it's not funny at all. In the moment, I can tell Wilson, it bothers him and it sends him in a tailspin. You can see immediately his wheels are turning. I'll never forget the day that a Liberian neighbor kid, a kid that was good friends with our family until we moved, not a white kid, a Liberian kid, asked Wilson who I was, and Wilson said, that's my dad. And the kid said back, no, he's not. Wilson said, yeah, he's my dad. No, he's not. He doesn't look like you. He doesn't look like us. His skin's not brown. Not your dad. Or how about the night that we were at a restaurant and our waiter came up, very kind person, came up and pointed at Wilson and then looked at my wife and I and said, oh, you guys have a friend staying the night? You guys have a friend coming over to hang out with you? You see, in these moments, we can get upset. We can get on our high horse. We can shame people, and we can make the other person feel like an idiot. By the way, I'm always surprised by how quickly we forget all the stupid things that we say ourselves. I'm always amazed by how it's like, that person, I can't believe they said that. We so quickly forget. And to the person here who's easily offended, you say at the very least, you think politically incorrect thoughts all the time, and God hears every word. I'm talking about you. Have you seen I'm talking about you, my diplomas. I know, nice diplomas. I'm talking about your thoughts. Again, what does God say? God says, don't be so easily angered. Don't be easily irritated or provoked. Stop being so easily offended. You see, oftentimes we get offended when the other person is simply curious. The Liberian neighbor kid wasn't trying to be mean. We get offended when someone simply doesn't know the right words to speak, or they make a mistake with their words. A mistake with their words? I've never done that. What does it feel like to be a terrible, horrible, rotten, uneducated human being? Get another diploma. I guess what I'm trying to say is a person's intent matters. And I found most of the time, not all the time, but the person most of the time has a great heart. I found that most of the time, not all the time, the person has a great intent. The person simply chose the wrong words. And when we're super easily offended, we stop thinking. When we get easily offended, we lash out, we get defensive, and we look and sound the opposite of Jesus. We don't look like him in those moments. I mean, in these moments, what if instead of getting offended, we extended grace? What if in these moments we remembered all the time that we inserted our own foot in our own mouth so deep that we couldn't pull it back out again? And if you are going to speak up, and sometimes we should speak up and we have to speak up, what we should always come from a heart filled with grace and humility rather than a heart filled with arrogance. Like for my son that night with the waiter, I did speak up and I simply said, he's my son. guy felt terrible, and I said, there's no reason, I promise, there's no reason to feel terrible. And after he left, I reassured Wilson myself again. Once more, we can and should speak up for others like we need to, but so often it just feels like we're just waiting for a person to say the wrong word. We're just waiting for them to say the wrong word. We're like the word police, and if they don't say the exact right words this week in 2020, which by the way, next week it's going to be a slightly different set of words that you need to say next week. If you don't say the right words, that we're convinced that we have to inform them and make them feel like a fool. Again, there's times that we need to speak up. There's times that we need to have conversations on behalf specifically of another person, but if you do so with humility and kindness and grace and gentleness. Otherwise, we are in the wrong ourselves as well. We don't get a pass card just because someone else said something first. Again, to the person who's easily offended, what does God say? First off, stop being so easily offended. Then secondly, what does God say? Instead of focusing on the right words, live the right life. Again, to this first extreme, the person who's easily offended, what does God have to say? Instead of focusing on the right words, live the right life. A guy named James once said this. I thought it was so simple yet powerful. Don't merely listen to the word and so deceive yourselves. Do what it says. You see, as humans, we love to talk a big game, don't we? And we love to appear and portray the perfect life. It's why we love Instagram. You can throw filters and you can edit your words, unlike Twitter that after you push it out, you can't edit. What a terrible thing. Where Jesus is like, I'm glad that you know how to say all the right things, but I'm more concerned about your life. Like more than simply being culturally sensitive with your words, do you have any friends or do you live next to, not just a nice cute service project, do you live next to anyone who looks differently than you do? You got the words, but what about your life? More than properly editing your words, what about all the ugly things that you think about in your soul? You got the right words, but what about all those ugly thoughts that you have? More than posting all the right things, what about your life? Instead of focusing on the right words, live the right life. I've found that if you're really, really careful and just not stupid, it's easy to say and talk in a way that's not politically incorrect. But just looking at Jesus, though, the people Jesus challenged the most, actually edit that. The people that Jesus ruthlessly called out were the religious people. The people who said all the right and perfect things, the people who were politically correct in all the right ways, but their hearts and their attitudes and their actions were so different. Just to ask, are you more concerned about saying the right words or are you more concerned about living the right life? Because if we're only concerned about saying the right words and portraying the right things, we are completely missing the boat. Jesus is like, I'm not just looking for people with the right words. Sure, I want you to have the right words, but I also want your heart to look more like mine. I want your attitude to look more like mine. I want your actions to look like mine. I want your life, #NoFilter, to look more and more and more like mine. I want all of you to look like mine. It's like instead of wasting all your time and energy and being offended and retweeting things and telling the world just how offended you are, why don't you take that same time and energy and put it into actually loving people different from you? What if you put it into action actually serving people and empowering people and living next to people who are different from you? We can talk all day. But if all we are is talk, our words will be empty. Instead of focusing on the right words, live the right life. So that's the first extreme of political correctness, the person who's offended by everything. And now just to say it, some of you are loving this message so far. Some of you are like, preach it. I love this guy. Some of you, I just saw you actually had your hands in the air for the very first time. I saw you waving it like you just didn't care. And you're just like, this is awesome. If that's you, you might want to put your hands down because the message is not finished yet. See, now let's talk about the other extreme. The person who wants to say whatever they want to. What does God have to say to this person? First off, he wants to say, think before you speak. Again, at the second extreme, the person who wants to say whatever they want, think before they speak. And this is actually really, really elementary. I tried to keep it as basic as I possibly could because some of us grown adults here need to know the basics. Some of us need to know what kindergartners need to hear and what kindergartners already live out. Some moms and dads need to take some notes for their kids. And I can say this because the group I'm talking to is not easily offended. Some of you 40-year-olds need to learn the basics. Think before you speak. It's really basic. Some of us need it. Listen to what Jesus says. Jesus is talking about our words and the power of our words and the fact that our words are an overflow of the heart. And then he says this, and these words have been haunting me all week long, and I'm not joking. Jesus, I tell you, on the day of judgment, people will give an account for every careless word they speak. That's from Jesus. Jesus is saying one day, when, not if you stand before God, when, not if you are judged by him, you will give an account for every careless word you speak. Like every careless word will be judged. Again, think before you speak. Think before you comment. Think before you open your mouth. Are the words you're wanting to say, are they pleasing to God? Are the words that you're wanting to speak, are they filled with self-control, with gentleness, with peace? Is your intent? We said intent matters, right? Is your intent with the words you're using to hurt others? Are you using the words that you're speaking just because you're right and you just want to say whatever you want to say, even if you know these words will cause division or hurt? Before you speak, just think. Maybe pull someone aside and say, I don't know, is this the right word? I feel like it might be the wrong word. And when you say something that hurts another person, even if that wasn't your intention, be quick to say you're sorry. Swallow your pride, be filled with humility and say, I made a mistake with my words. Be quick to apologize. Jesus reminds us that we will give an account for every careless word you speak. Think about this. Every careless word you speak about a person of a different race, every careless word about a person who thinks differently than you politically, every careless word about a person of the opposite sex, every careless word about someone who's gay, about every careless word about an immigrant. I might be stepping on some toes. Every careless word that you say about the person who annoys you, every careless word will be judged. And get this, you will be judged not by some soft person who in your eyes needs to suck it up, not by them. Instead, you will be judged by our holy God himself. Again, not your coworker or family member who you feel like you need to dance around on eggshells with that just needs to suck it up. Instead, I'm talking about the holy God that you'll be unable to speak before because he's holy. The holy God that you won't be given snarky comments back to. The holy God, hey, let me just post this really crazy. Every careless word. You see, in this country, there's a freedom of speech, right? And I can say whatever I want, and I'm a grown adult, and it's my rights. But get this, as followers of Jesus, freedom of speech does not apply to you. Like freedom of speech no longer applies to you. But I'm an American, but you're a follower of Christ before that. And so this freedom of speech, it wasn't my decision. It was actually your decision. The day that you began to follow Jesus, you as Americans, you took this right and a whole bunch of other rights. And what did you do? You set it down at the foot of the cross. And he said, from this day forward, God, my allegiance to you comes before this. And so now I can no longer just say whatever I want to say because my words are actually no longer my words, they're your words. And now I get to use my words only for your good and for your glory. You see, when we start following Jesus, we no longer just represent ourselves, we now represent him. We are ambassadors of him. We are the aroma of Christ, and our words, they represent the words of Jesus here on this earth. Yes, I understand that some people are easily offended. I get that, but as followers of Christ, we don't want to needlessly offend anyone. Once more, to the person who wants to say whatever they want, what does Jesus say? Think before you speak. Then secondly, what does he say? He says, put some salt on your words. Put some salt on your words. We mentioned Paul earlier. At one point, he was writing to a group of Christians, and just listen to what he has to say about words. Paul says this. He says, let your speech always be gracious, seasoned with salt, so that you will have the right response for everyone. Another translation says, let your words be attractive and gracious. Paul's telling us to put some salt on your words. To be clear, Paul's not saying to be salty with your words. It sounds very same, but it's different. Just get technical, okay? And I'm going to generalize here and say that most of the people who need to hear this part of the message are not vegetarians, okay? And so we understand what it means to put salt on things like steak. Again, if you add salt to steak and then throw it on the grill, it brings out the flavor, right? Little A1 sauce always helps as well. Random fun fact, I thought it was Al sauce for most of my life, but who's counting? Let's get out of the details. Stop judging me, okay? But Paul's saying that our words should have salt on them. They should be pleasant and attractive. Just to say it, we can't just say whatever we want. Why? Because our words have a greater purpose. God has a greater calling on the words that he wants us to speak. We're not playing games here. We don't play games with the words that we use. Our words are powerful. Your words have the ability to literally change someone's life. Your words have the ability to make someone feel seen. Your words have the ability to build bridges with people who are different from you. Your words have the ability to breathe life into another person's spiritual lungs. Your words have the ability to point someone to Jesus. Not a game. Your words have power. Salt that makes the steak better. Just to ask a terrible question, have you ever been eating steak or mashed potatoes? Or have you ever been eating raw bacon just because you're a man and you can eat raw bacon if you want to? And as you're eating that wonderful steak or food, have you ever, as you were eating, discovered a hair? Why, God? Why? If you're like me, I'm always asking myself, who did this hair come from and what part of their body did this hair come? I'll stop asking questions. It's just what I go. Okay, I'm sorry. Don't judge. This is a safe place to share my questions. For me personally, though, it ruins the meal. What part? Every part. Everything. I physically struggle. I know this sounds dramatic. I'm not being dramatic. I physically struggle to take another bite. And I'm a people pleaser, so I don't want to make a big scene of it. So I kind of just gently ignore all the things on my plate. Ruins everything. More than that, there's a high chance that I will never want to eat at the place again. I'll never say that, but I'll think about it. Every time I'll be like, that one time. Our words when we're careless, our words when we don't care, our words when we post crazy Facebook crap, it ruins the whole thing. What part? Everything. It ruins our ability to encourage and speak life into people. We want to change someone else's mind or thoughts. It ruins that. It ruins our ability to point people to Jesus. It ruins our reputation. It ruins it all. Put some salt on your words. Again, it shouldn't be that big of a deal, but just that one hair incident, just ruins it. So back to political correctness. What in the world, right? I was fairly naive coming to this message. I actually thought it would be the easiest message to prepare, but as I even stepped one foot into it, I began to realize that it's super, super complicated. You can't imagine the amount of history and nuances there are in the history of political correctness. Even when I began to set aside my own preferences and I began to set aside my own leanings, I have leanings too, folks, just like you do. And I looked at Jesus. It got really, really complicated really, really quickly. And all week long, my toes have hurt from being stepped on. You see, Jesus has never really been that good at fitting into people's boxes. For the last 2,000 years, he's never been good at fitting into other people's boxes. And also, to get more direct, he's never been good at fitting into our boxes either. And Jesus, politically leaning, he's not left and he's not right, and he's also not center. And so where is he? He's Jesus. But like his leanings, though, like politically, like left or right, Jesus. No, like I want to put him in a box of some kind, Jesus. But no, I know. I just cannot, Jesus. Jesus. As followers of Jesus, our goal isn't to follow culture. Our goal isn't to follow a political party. Our goal isn't to follow the latest trend. It's to follow Jesus. And just to say it, if we're trying to be politically incorrect or politically correct, either way, you might miss Jesus. And so what do we do, right? Like, what's the answer? I hate to tell you, I don't know. But like, what's the answer? Like, what should we do? I don't know. Jesus? Maybe it's just Jesus is the answer. I don't know all the specific answers to specific questions. A good place to start, though, stop being so easily offended. Instead of focusing on the right words, live the right life. I don't know all the right answers, but I do know to think before you speak. I don't know all the right answers, but I do know to put some salt on your words. I don't know all the answers, but I know Jesus. And I know I want to follow Jesus, and I want to be closer to Jesus, and I want to fall more in love with Jesus. I just want Jesus. The answer is him. Let's pray. Gracious Father, Heavenly King, we come before you thankful for who you are. I come specifically thankful that you are a God who continues to speak all week long. More than a time that I can remember this past year, I've just wanted to hear from you. I got all these feelings, I got all these emotions, and I know my own leanings, and I know what the world is shouting every other second. But God, I want to hear from you, Jesus, because I want you. You're the answer. God, I thank you that you come and you speak to us. Today, this message is not for the person next to us. It's not for the person that we can't wait to get home to share with us. This message is for us. It's for you. It's for me. It's for us, God. And I'm thankful that you speak in a way that we can understand. And so the things that you have for us, would you make them so clear in our ears right now? Would you just move it from our head to our heart? Would it begin to change our heart's tone, our attitude? And as a result, would it begin to change the words that come out of our mouth and the words that come out of our fingertips on a keyboard? God, would you change our words? Because we want to use our words, which are actually your words. We want to use our words for your glory, for your good, not ourselves. Lord, we love you. We thank you. We pray all these things in the name of Jesus. All God's people said, amen. Amen.